Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? I'm Pau, and I'm going to be your host for the evening. We do have one housekeeping announcement, which is that Chris can't join us. He sends his love, but something happened last minute, so he can't pop in. But maybe we'll have another one of these to make up for that. So we'll maybe have a part 2 in the future. But we do have a lot of awesome panelists with us tonight. And I know that it's exactly 7 p.m., so I know people will be trickling in. Feel free to say hi in the chat if you want to and introduce yourself. I also wanted to just remind you all that this is a free event, but we're encouraging everyone to donate to Random Acts if you'd like to. And we have a banner that shows how you can go to Random Acts to donate, and we'll also put it in the chat, so that you can actually make sure that, you follow the website and leave a donation if you can. Yesterday was Giving Tuesday, and I think that Misha and the Padalecki's are actually still matching up to $20,000 donations for until that's reached for Random Acts. So yeah, this is brought to you by the Friends of Random Acts group in New York City. And that's where I am tonight. And I want to now pass it along to our panelists who are going to introduce themselves and tell us about what their role is in conventions, which is our topic for the evening. So I'm going to start actually with Briar and ask Briar to introduce yourself and tell us about your role with conventions.
Hi, I'm Briar. I am the owner and editor-in-chief and just all-around kind of boss lady of Nerds and Beyond. If you don't know what that is, it's a pop culture website, news site that kind of covers a variety of topics, one of them being conventions. So I'm on here to kind of talk about like our role with conventions, how we cover it, that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Shelly?
Hi, my name is Shelly. I work the creation conventions. You will find me in the photo op room alongside Chris or running around working with the team members who staff the conventions. So I'm at all Supernatural conventions and love the environment and love meeting everybody there.
Thanks, Shelly. Scout?
I am a vendor. And I am an artist. I mostly sell my wares at the shows. And I'm just a general nuisance.
General nuisance. And we also have a mini guest behind you.
Oh, yeah. Behind me, you'll see my sweet, sweet boy, Kane. He does not come with to the conventions as he would do a murder. But in this setting, totally safe. Totally safe, like a live feed of a shark.
Thank you. And Strob?
Hi, I'm Strob, and I am a fan that attends conventions, and I also cosplay.
Thank you. And in terms of me, I'm also a fan, and I'm on the leadership team for Friends of Random Acts. And so we all kind of have different roles in conventions. And I would say, nod your head, you probably agree that we're all fans too of different conventions. So we're talking about Supernatural conventions to a large degree, but not exclusively. I know I go to a lot of different Comic-Cons and board game conventions and things of that nature. And really the purpose of the conversation tonight is to talk about conventions, whether you're a newbie going for the first time or whether you're a veteran going for I just had my 15th Supernatural convention. I know people are in their 50th convention and more. And so it really is something that is a really great experience. And I think everybody has fun memories and tips. So I'm going to put this question out there for you all. What is a favorite memory you have from a convention you've attended? And I'll start with Briar again this time.
Okay, there's a good one that I always say is sort of embarrassing / weird, but also fun. So we're talking about a Supernatural convention. every convention, it's kind of become a tradition to do an interview with Matt Cohen, or at least every convention that I attend personally, do an interview with Matt Cohen. I had one scheduled on a Saturday of Jacksonville, whenever that happened, like 2019. I don't remember the years anymore. Back in 2019. And let's say it was like 2:00 or whatever. So I'm waiting and I'm like in the lobby. And Matt Cohen runs by with no shirt promoting the Radio Company album. And I'm like, well, it's 2:00. So I'm like, I go up the so I'm like going, and it looks weird because I'm following him. But I'm supposed to be going up the escalator. So I'm up the escalators and I'm trying to like distance myself back enough. And then it looks like I go up the escalators and I go into one of the like, and then he goes into one of the rooms, and then that's the room I'm supposed to meet him in. So I just follow him like after he's shirtless. And then I get in the room and he just starts laughing, and whoever was working with him, and he was like, oh man, Jensen's gonna love this. And it was just like a moment that stuck in my mind, because it's like, yeah, he just ran through the whole convention shirtless, and then here I am trying to not look like a creep following him, but also I have a purpose to follow him.
That's a really good story. And I feel like a lot of us have been there for Matt Cohen Hype Squad, both shirtless and not shirtless, depending on, the time. I think one of my favorite things is when he more used to get really into Mama's Jam during Saturday Night Special and hype up the crowd. I feel like he's the number one, like, loud and swaying hype man. So that's always fun. But yeah, thanks, Briar. That's a really, really good memory. Scout, I'm going to turn it over to you. What's one of your favorite convention memories?
What's funny about Briar's is that I was thinking about that, and I was sitting there during that memory of hers. I had a different perspective where I was just at my table, and then you just hear this approaching gaggle of women. And I was like, who's out today? And I was like, oh, something special. And I see this shirtless Matt holding the albums, and I was just like, another day at the office, I suppose. But as far as like picking a favorite memory, to me, it's very much like picking a favorite song, where like you're at so many of them, where it's like, well, this is what I think of right now. But I know if someone was like, well, don't you remember when this and this and this happened? I'd be like, oh yeah, that's actually my favorite thing. So I don't know. I think just getting to be in them, I'm happy enough. That's a good memory as it is.
Nice. What about you, Shelley?
I was racking my brain because so many ridiculous and fun things have happened. That one definitely comes to mind with Matt. That was, I think, an iconic moment for a lot of us. I think one of my favorite things that has ever happened for me at convention is the very first one I actually attended before I started working. I did the old find some roommates on Facebook. I think a lot of us did that, put ourselves out there, like just see who we meet. And I walked away from that experience with one of my best friends ever. She officiated my wedding. She is like just the greatest human being who has come in and out of the fandom, as I think a lot of us also do at various times. But I don't know, that's what I see for myself and for a lot of other people, is finding these like serious lifelong friendships with people across the country and across the world. And that sticks with me, I guess, the most.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Cheesy.
I
love
think
it.
It's wonderful. I feel like only because I want to make her feel awkward, my best friend's on the screen right now too. And I also met her through conventions, and I feel like that is one of those like invaluable things. Memories with all the faves are awesome, but I think the friendships that you make are like, priceless. And I consider everybody on the screen one of my friends now too, and I think that that's really beautiful. So with that, Strob, do you have a favorite memory?
I have to be in the camp that there's so many good memories when you go to these that it's difficult to pick one. But one that I'm rather fond of, especially from a cosplayer standpoint, is I wore a cosplay to a supernatural convention that I hadn't worn before, and it was Cass when he's human and he's posing as Steve in the gas and sip.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a lot of like fun interactions with a lot of the cast members, but my favorite interactions was that there was this group of young fans who every time they saw me would yell Steve and like wave erratically because they just like loved it so much. And it just was like having a little hype squad of these like fellow fans that also love that variation of the character, and it just always brings a smile to my face.
That's really beautiful. Yeah, I think like random fans that you meet, even if they don't become like lifelong fans, are also fun, and you create like these really interesting memories with them too. And I'm not a cosplayer, but I know some people in the chat probably are. And Strob, I'm going to ask you some cosplaying specific questions later as a preview for everyone. And I think that cosplaying is like a really good like entry point to meeting people. And so even if you do like a really complex costume or something that's more like simple, I think that you can really connect with people, and you know, they can be like, oh, that's my favorite character, or you know, even confuse you for somebody or whatever it might be. I swear I saw Rowena that I was like, oh, that's Ruth, and then it wasn't Ruth, but still really beautiful. And so yeah, I think tips are something I wanted to talk about. So as you all know, we have a chat, and you can put questions in there if you have any questions. So feel free to put questions in there if you have any, and I'll take a look at them and ask them to our panel as well. But the next question I have for you all are about what tips do you have for new convention goers? So I know for a fact there's like at least a couple people who told me they were coming who have never been to a supernatural convention, are going to their first one next year. So what would you say to them? And I'll let whoever wants to go first this time.
I'll go. Okay, so a big one for me that I also harp on with our team members each time we start a new event is use that schedule. It is a big, wonderful book with so much information in it. And that very first page often reminds me of like a commercial for a medication where at the end it's like, side effects me. There's a lot, but it's all really valid and really helpful information, and will answer nearly any question you could think of. And also shows you things about like conflicts, because that happens a lot. It's a really busy show. There are things happening at the same time a lot. So it might say like, if you have this person's autograph and this person's photo at the same time, go do this first. And that is a huge help that people I think often miss. And then my other note would be to bring a water bottle, bring some snackies. It's long days, more so than you might think. And you often are like, I'm going to go back to my room and take a break. And then you like get so caught up in the moment, you can't help but stay, and you're tired, and you just want to make sure that you're still feeding and watering yourself. Big ones.
Those are really, really good ones. I think my first convention I went to, I was like attached to that schedule, and I wouldn't have been able to survive without it. So yeah, that's definitely valid, and we're all beautiful plants. So I think that that's beautiful and wonderful. Who else has a great tip for new convention goers?
I have one. When you go to your first convention, you have like a set idea of who you're excited to see and what you're excited to do. And I always remind people to, if you absolutely can, add a little extra money to your budget to just be there in case you end up at a panel and you find out that you love this actor and you want an autograph or a photo with them, or you find something that you really want to get or whatever, just so that way you do have the money to also enhance that experience a little more, especially as it like evolves once you're there.
I love that tip so much. I think that's how I like first, I mean, I always loved Trickster, but I think when I saw the opening that Rich did at my first Supernatural convention, I was like, wow, he is a special human. And I need to get something with him. You know, many conventions later, I have like a whole stack of photo ops with, you know, with Rich. But I think that you're totally spot on with that. You're like surprised by people and you don't know the actors and you get to know them through the panels, and you might meet somebody who you feel like you really connect with and end up getting a photo op or meet and greet or whatever it is with them in the future. So yeah, that's an awesome tip. Thank you. Scout or Briar?
I have one. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Like other convention goers, do not be scared of them. If you
I was scared of Scout.
Yeah, that's what. Honestly, Briar, you're making all the wheels turn. Yeah, don't be afraid to talk to other people, seatmates, people next to you. You never know; they could be somebody that, like, especially if you're at just a single genre like a Supernatural, you can just sort of look to the person next to you and be like, "Hey, who are you most excited to see this weekend?" And if it lines up with you, just be like, "Sweet, same." And sometimes you'll like make a connection for future conventions if you're interested in that, or just friends in general. So I always encourage people, like, always talk to the person next to you. You're all there for the same reason, you know. So that's my thing.
Yeah, I think that's great. Thanks, Scout. What about you, Briar?
I guess more like a personal thing. I am a very big like researcher. So if you're going to your first convention, research, because especially if you don't want to miss out on things, like if you, some things you might not know, like how meet and greets go on sale beforehand, or sometimes if it's in a key market area that the convention is going to, photo ops will sell out beforehand. So just making sure you're kind of prepared of like, if you really want to see that person, get that ticket sooner rather than later. That way there, you know, you don't show up the day of and then they're sold out of stuff, and that kind of ruins your experience a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And I think that every convention city is different too. And that was going to be my tip, to think about the cities you're going to. Like I'm a huge fan of like New Orleans, for example, which just happened. I wasn't at this one, but explore the city, find places to eat that aren't necessarily just in the convention center. It's hard to do that because your convention might be so packed. So if you can, maybe go a day early or stay a day late. Or I don't know, party it up at night. I have no idea, but I think exploring the cities that you go to, or even picking a city because it might be fun to do like the extracurriculars that city has to offer, would be my tip. So the cities is one thing, but I also wanted to give a shout out to vendors because they're amazing, and there's a lot of Supernatural vendors that go to a lot of the shows, and you get to know them, and they're like a whole community. And I feel like supporting artists is really important as part of the Supernatural community, but any con that you go to, and it's like a fun area to hang out in the vendor area. Don't block their table too much so that other people can see the stuff, but go and say hi and hang out with them and like get to know them because they're really awesome people. I see some comments in the chat that are pretty awesome. One was at a con by myself and got talking with my seatmate, and then one at one point they left for food and brought me back an extra sub. And I think that's really sweet that they did that. And yes, bringing snacks is another big tip about just like survival, being that plant that Shelly talked about. And then Trinity has a serious question, which is several people in our group have physical disabilities. Any thoughts or tips regarding accessibility? I'm going to shoot that question to Shelly first, but if anybody else has any thoughts on that, feel free to chime in as well.
Totally. So a few key things. Our team members always want to be out there and helpful and helping you with anything you need. So getting you in a little early for our evening events or before panels start so that you don't feel like you have to like beat the rush of people that are coming in is definitely a huge one. Find those team members early on, or you can talk with Monica at registration. I recommend, if you haven't booked seats yet, trying to get those aisle seats, things like that help you with mobility, getting in, getting out. But we want to be there, of course, to help you with any of that you need, and always want to hear ways that we could be better. So reach out to Monica at registration, reach out via email and say, hey, I have this coming up. Do you have any tips for me? Just coming from creation themselves. In photo ops as well, we make sure to have a special little route for getting in and getting out, and taking things. If you don't want something in the photo, I'm always there to help you with your mobility if that is the particular issue that you're speaking of, or sorry, not issue, but if that's what you are needing assistance with, I'm happy to help. But yeah, any feedback is always appreciated, and anything that we can always do to help and do better, just let us know.
Yeah, thanks, Shelly. I think a tip that I have, like, I know I suffer from anxiety, and the conventions can be really overwhelming sometimes. And one thing I always do at every single convention I've ever been to is find like a quiet spot for myself. Like, even if you're in these like really hectic spaces, there's always that like random chair or like place you can sit on your own to decompress. And I think finding that spot for yourself like early on so that you have it to go to, it's more like personal preservation, not like an institutional thing that exists. But I think that it's really cool to kind of do that for yourself so that you have that alone time if you need it. But yeah, does anybody else have any thoughts on just accessibility at conventions? Yes, go.
Well, something like just a tip in general, if you have if you have any sensibility or sensory issues, and noise canceling headphones, especially if you aren't sure and you're like, if you're a little sensitive about loud noises, it does get very loud both in ops and the auditorium. So if you're a little sensitive to that, I would recommend looking into those. And also, like Kendra was just put on the screen, Random Acts and I'm Alive, they all have a lot of resources. They can all help with any issues you might be having too. They can help you get some assistance if it might be urgent. Because I know some people do come to vendors if they're like, I need a wheelchair right now, and I'm like, that sounds great. I wish you had one. So yeah, anytime that you see somebody that you think can actually really help you, like especially if they stick with green lanyards at creation cons, right? Always look for a green lanyard if it's a pretty serious question and you don't see it on your schedule. Always go for that. Don't just shoot in the dark or go to the hotel. You'll probably get better answers from a green lanyard that can take you to somebody that has better answers.
Thank you, Scout. Yeah, and Kendra, thank you for your tip about going to the I'm Alive table and sitting behind their secrets wall. I didn't know about that. Now I know about that, so thank you. All right, so yeah, keep putting your questions in the chat, and I'm gonna ask what I think is a tough question to the group, which is, what tips do you have for veteran convention goers? So for people who have gone to many conventions, what tips do you have for them? And I'm going to ask Scout first.
I echo what you said earlier, which is actually just get to know the place better. If you've been to one city like 5 times and I accidentally activated my thing. Echo, never mind. Okay, so anyway, yeah, that's what my recommendation, because a lot of people are like, oh, you know, I've done Nashville like 3 times and it's getting kind of and I'm like, have you looked around Nashville? I can never go to Nashville like 3 times and be like, yeah, I guess I've seen it all. Like if you've done the whole circuit quite a few times and you're like, I'm a little bored, I think that I mean, do your regular stuff, do your usual, but definitely check out the site that it's at. That has a lot to offer.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Scout. Anyone else?
I think you got it. Go. You got it.
I would say, first off, like, do, like, you tend to like find your little friend groups and everything, but I'm going to echo earlier, like, talk to other people, because you do end up meeting so many new people. And in that vein, like, remember that it's other people's first convention. You can always be a resource for them. It's always exciting to hear people's like see it all through someone's first time again. It just like always makes me excited about it all over again. So it's just like, just keep talking to people. We're all there to enjoy the same stuff.
Yeah, those are really, really, really good tips. Thanks, Strob. Shelly?
I was going to say something similar, essentially, adopt a newbie if you can, because it will. I also think a lot of times coming to convention after convention, although of course we all like love and want to be there, is really exhausting and is really tiring. So adopting a newbie under your wing like gives you that like really high excitement level again. Not that that doesn't still exist when you're just there anyway, but I think it's such a blast to like be able to point things out to someone else, to be able to give tips and tricks. And oh my gosh, you know, I know you were going to go to the bathroom during Rob's panel, but you should really check it out because he always makes me laugh, you know, or he always plays a song. Like having those things and or doing that yourself. Maybe a certain panel is your refresh panel. Maybe you're like, you know what, I've seen this person 6 times now, I'm good. Pop in every once in a while because there's always new and ridiculous stories being told. There's always new things happening, and you might catch it later on YouTube and be like, man, I wish I'd seen that.
Yeah, thanks, Shelly. No pressure, Briar. Do you have one?
It's hard.
No, it's hard, and I haven't been
so
to as many
hard.
as everybody else. So
Yeah, I was gonna say my veteran tip too is to take selfies with your friends because
Oh yeah,
everybody
memories.
like forgets, and I try to make it a point so that I have those memories, like not just selfies, but just pictures. Like take pictures.
Yeah. See,
So
I've
that
fallen
you have
victim.
memories. Yeah.
I fell victim to that. That's why I'm like, I don't know what con is what anymore because I didn't take like any pictures at certain ones or like one's over here and then one was over here. And it's like, I don't know anymore. So
Yeah.
I definitely did not listen to that advice. I did not get that advice and I should have gotten that.
Yeah, totally. Liz just made a really cute comment. You can be having a tiring or down moment, and then you see someone who just had their first photo up, and seeing their joy just gives you a pick me up. I love that. That's so true. I know that there are convention groups on social media for both newbies and veterans if you're looking to connect with people ahead of time. I know some of them do like meetups Thursday night before the convention starts if you don't know anyone and you want to connect with them. So that's something too that you can think about. Okay, so my next question is for Strob, which is, how did you first get into cosplaying, and do you see a connection from your involvement in conventions and your current career, which if you want to, you can talk to us about. And I have another question for you, and I'm just going to ask it now, and you can answer in general all of these questions. How would you recommend a new cosplayer source their costumes? Buy stuff, thrift, buy sewing books, etc. So any of that you can answer in general.
Okay. I'll start with advice for people who are wanting to get into it. My big advice is you don't have to make your own costume. It is perfectly acceptable to buy one and wear it. You're still cosplaying. The big caveat there is do not claim that you have made it. Like someone's hard work and time went into that. So if you do go that route, like just don't claim it as your own. If you do want to build your own, that's also acceptable. There's a lot of resources for like sourcing pieces or building things. The internet is aplenty with all sorts of tutorials anymore for like anything from just how to sew to like building armor out of foam and like making props and adding lights to things. Like I've seen people do some incredible stuff even just for like a first cosplay, and anything is game. Like you can be as screen accurate or as conceptual as you want to be, and it's all completely valid. There's been some really incredible stuff that people like have done. And it's always interesting to see what someone will bring to a character that's new. I got started in cosplay because I went to a convention with my roommate. The deal was she would go with me to my Eric Clapton concert if we could stop by the convention that was also in town for a couple hours. And that was my first real exposure to conventions in general. And seeing everyone dressed up in all of these different outfits for all of these like movies and TV shows, and like a lot of them I hadn't even seen, but you could tell that they had put all this effort into it, was like fascinating to me. And I was in fashion school at the time, starting to work towards what I currently do. And so it made me want to like try it out. And so that was a lot of fun. And I do think that there's a little bit of a connection from my involvement with conventions into what I do, which I am a costumer for film and television. So I make sure that everyone looks as perfect as they need to when they're on camera, that then ends up becoming the media that we all watch and enjoy. And a lot of it was like my inspiration for going into this field was my involvement with fandom, both online and in person at conventions, and just hearing people who have similar stories to me of like how much a show or a movie has impacted their life. And it just makes me want to be able to help create that and keep the cycle going of people being, you know, like finding these stories that they need in their lives and that kind of stuff. So
Thanks, Strob. I think one of my favorite of your cosplays that you ever did, which was so much more conceptual, like you mentioned, was the empty.
yeah.
Like, I loved when you did that. You were just like in this black, like, I don't know what to call it, like
Morph suit, yeah.
Morph suit, and it had a name tag that said the empty. And I was just like on the floor laughing because it was just like so good. But I really love that you said it can be like creative in all sorts of different ways. And I'm gonna put you on the spot and ask you if you've worked or if you worked on any show that we might love, even if it was briefly, and if you could tell us anything about that experience.
I did get to work on the last few days of Supernatural. And it was probably the most surreal experience of my life. I also worked on Wrap, and watching them rip apart the sets was like bittersweet because it was like really cool to see the bunker, but they're also ripping it apart in front of me. That's like my fictional home that you're throwing into the dumpster. But it was such a pleasure and like such a treat to be able to be a part of it and to get to watch a few of those moments. Just to be a part of the magic.
Yeah, somebody just said a champion, and I agree. A champion. So yeah, I think that cosplaying, like Strob said, can look all sorts of different ways. I know that somebody asked for you to post a picture of the MD, so maybe you'll do it on your Twitter later if you feel like it. But the next question I had was for Chris, who isn't here. But I wanted to give a shout out to con photographers and just say that there are amazing convention photographers. Some of them might be in the chat now. But some tips about convention photographers in general: if you see somebody post a convention photo, you know, support them, retweet, follow their accounts. Definitely don't ever crop out their watermarks. Try to retweet instead of just resharing the photo. But I'm just really grateful for them because I feel like they bring conventions to us in a way that if we're not there, we can still see it through their eyes. And I think that that's something that's really, really cool. Jenny has a question. So do they normally censor questions, or was that a one-time thing? Because my anxieties made me not want to ask questions after that. I'm going to let Shelly take that question, but I'm also going to comment first, which is, in my experience, they don't censor your questions. I've asked many questions. They'll ask you what your question is ahead of time, so I can let Shelly give you the ins and outs of what that means. But I think that it's important to kind of note that you should come into the line with what your question is going to be ahead of time, because they will ask you what it is at the front of the line. So Shelly, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so that is spot on. They are not censoring the questions. And if that ever happens, please make sure to come find me or one of the other staff to let us know, because that means someone was given the wrong information. And they certainly don't mean any harm by it, but it has, I'm sure, happened in the past. So essentially, we just want to make sure that you are indeed asking a question, because the time is everyone's time. And there is a lot of requests of like, would you mind singing happy birthday to my grandma or something, which is really lovely and wonderful, but it is the entire room's time. And all of you guys have, of course, paid money to be there. And we're just wanting everyone to, be respectful of that and ask something that everyone can enjoy or everyone can listen to that doesn't focus on a singular person, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm not like the most ethics
I think that
person,
makes
but
total sense. Like, you don't want somebody asking for like a selfie,
right,
or like, can you sign this, when it's a question for the whole audience. And so, yeah, that is why I've been told people ask questions too at the front. And so, yeah, I think that that's it's nerve-wracking for, I think, anyone to ask a question. So I hear you in terms of asking the question, Jenny, but I think that the censorship, like Shelly's saying, is not a norm at all. And if that happens to you, definitely find creation and let them know that that happened to you. Thanks. We have another question. We got a lot of photo ops before we knew of the COVID restrictions. How do you feel the restrictions have changed these opportunities, especially for newbies meeting the actors for the first time? Anybody want to take that one?
I mean, I think that it's made it more brief for people during ops. I think that, there's always, like, before there was sort of like sometimes there would be like a brief exchange of words, and that would sometimes be like someone's whole day at a convention. But that times have to change. I think that that's really it, though, as far as that goes. I don't think it's made anything too insanely topsy-turvy,
Mm-hmm.
You have to get a little creative with your poses.
Yeah.
To incorporate the, like, you can incorporate it, or you can just kind of like try and rework it. It definitely adds an extra layer of challenge to how you want to do your pose. I don't know. But
on that note, you can try to throw stuff at the plexiglass and see if it sticks. like messy things.
Listen.
Just crazy stuff. Anything that sticks. That's my advice for newbies.
I will say, yes, I I am the cleanup person, so don't do that. No, the biggest thing that I have been working on these past couple conventions, because everyone who has been before is very trained in a certain way of how the flow goes, and everyone who hasn't been kind of follows that lead. It's it's a little dance we got down, which is really nice and really cool, and the dance has changed a little bit. But one big tip that will help all of us out, especially you, I think, is if you are ready with your pose and what you want in line, when you reach me, you get to tell it to me what you need, essentially what you need the actor to do, because they're on that side of the plexiglass. I can then relay it to them, usually in some form of hand signals. We've gotten really nailed down with that, which means they're barely looking at me. They're still looking at you. They're still able to give you, I know it's really hard to hear. We jam out in there. It is fast, but they're still able to give you that hello, how are you, that eye contact, a little bit of what we used to have and what we're still trying to hold on to without it having to be totally thrown away. So the best thing to do is be prepared and let me know, because then they don't even pay attention to me. They pay attention to you, and you still get to chat, so to speak. It does feel different, but
doodle.
It's not terrible. Yeah. Oh, love a doodle.
Yeah.
Yes, doodles
Love
are
a doodle.
They can just be basic stick figures and convey exactly what you need them to do. They're very
Yep.
good at directing. They're actors. It's what they do. So
Yeah, I
10 out
think
of 10.
one tip is that you can look at other photo ops people have done for inspiration, um, and look at the convention hashtags on social media to find the photo ops. And I think it's always really flattering when somebody copies your op in a respectful way, because you did a great op. And so, yeah, it can give you inspiration for the plexiglass ops. I've seen some really creative things. I saw somebody who, oh, wait, we have a good comment. I can vouch for Shelly. She's been a real MVP when it comes to relaying what I want for my ops. Aw,
Thanks.
please. Yeah, I agree. I've gotten ops and Shelly is awesome, and also calms the nerves.
Thanks.
Oh, a reminder, you all, you can donate to Random Acts. So the banner for how you can donate is on the screen, and we'll put the link in the chat again. So just make sure that if you can and you have the means that you donate to RA, if possible. And so, yeah, my next question is for Scout, which is, what advice do you have for artists or people who want to become vendors? What inspired you to create fan art specifically?
Something that just specifically for vendors is to never underestimate the power of a good display. Because like, as long as if your display is like well thought out, well rounded, as long as you believe in your products and what you're talking about and what you've made, really your display will usually sell it for you. If your display is laid out well enough, you can just say, if you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'll just be doing my thing. And usually that makes your life as a vendor a lot easier if your table can do most of the talking for you. So that's my just general advice there. But for artists in general, don't compare yourself to anyone. Comparison is the thief of joy, and art is fake. Art isn't real. Art doesn't exist. I can't emphasize this enough. It's not real. Humans made it as a luxury for themselves. We love it. We love it, but there's nothing to compare it to. There's no point. There's no starting point. There's no end point. So love what you do. And I like doing fan art because sometimes I don't particularly like the way that a certain sequence of something went, so I can change it around. Or I really, really like a background character, and I'm like, they deserve a whole painting, a whole episode, a whole story arc. I'll give it to them. My son, my child, whoever they are. It's like an 80-year-old man that was in one episode or something. But like, that's what inspires me, is like those 2-second characters that I'm like, oh, they have a whole world behind them. I wanna make something else with them. So that's what makes me do fan art. But that's my own mental affliction, I think.
Thanks, Scout. Yeah, if you want to become a vendor, there's always different ways to do that. Shelly, I don't know if you know anything about the vending process and how people can sign up for that.
So it is on the creation website. I believe you end up reaching out to Letitia.
Yeah. So I didn't know that was a part of this. That is the case. You do just go onto Creation's website. It's a pretty straightforward. You can just look and see. Every place is a little bit different. Some places it's like a vending lottery that you have to be entered into to get a table, but that's for like big multi-genre cons. So if you want to get into vending, make sure you look at that specific convention's guidelines. They'll say like, you can't have this licensed product, you can't sell photography from this, you can't do this. Like, there's specific things that the convention themselves will want vendors to do, and they won't just say, bring whatever you want. Like, for instance, I sell like sometimes photorealistic looking faces, but they'll be the original piece. So it's not a reproduction, it's nothing else, and people can just buy it then and there, and that's the only one they have. And like the convention themselves can't do that. They don't just have an artist painting, sitting and doing that. So make sure you look through the copyright laws, do all that, and as long as you're happy with the product you've made, you should be good to go.
Thanks, Scout. Briar, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. Is Nerds and Beyond accepting new volunteer staff or writers? And if anybody is interested in heading down that route with Nerds or another outlet or anything, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, we are. To find it, you can go to the website, you can go to contact us, and there will be an email there. You can reach out. That goes directly to me. Or find us on social media and write a message to us. All of our like DMs are open. You can do whatever and contact me there. In terms of advice, honestly, just write what you're passionate about. That's what I stress the most to all of our people who write for us is I think you write the best or you put the most effort into something that you're passionate about. And finding that, like, that's what kind of I like most about Nerds is we just let people write what they want about the things that they love. So it might just be something you've never heard of before that maybe you want to read about that, will come from a fan. Everything is from a fan's perspective. It's not, you see a lot, or at least we see a lot of like reviews and things like that. Even with Supernatural, of people who you can tell have maybe never really watched the show, or they just watch it for a review purpose, and they kind of really don't know what's going on too much. So if you really, and also just make sure the biggest thing you look for too is just that if you want to write, just make sure your grammar is correct. That's the biggest thing we look for is, we have a lot of writers who have been like, oh, I'm not a great enough writer. Well, that's where kind of we step in, to be like, you have good bones, but maybe you need a little bit of push or maybe a little bit of direction on how to frame it in a way that's professional. And that's kind of where we come in to help too.
Yeah, I love Nerds and Beyond. And they cover stuff beyond Supernatural too, like really a ton of different shows and movies and music and like anything you can think of, really, award shows, etc. So if you're not following them on the socials, I would definitely do that. And we have in the chat the different links and email for how you can connect with Nerds and Beyond if you're interested. And kind of with that, Briar, how do you prepare Nerds and Beyond for going into a convention weekend?
So it depends on the convention. Realistically, I personally go to maybe one creation event a year. I go to smaller other conventions like Fan Expo stuff, or local cons like that. And then I also coordinate big cons. So like San Diego, New York. While I don't go to them, I coordinate all the behind the scenes of it. So for us specifically, if we're going into a convention that accepts them, we'll look at like San Diego or New York Comic Con. If you want a press pass for that, you have to do so almost a year in advance. And there's like a really rigorous kind of application process to doing that. And then with them, once you get through, it's planning, because they're a lot bigger. They have a lot more like attention from film and TV. For those bigger ones, there's like a lot of press rooms. So you'll reach out to different companies and say, hey, we have somebody going there. Can we get into your press room? Blah, blah, blah. For smaller ones, if they don't have press available, if they're really a smaller one, or if they're a creation or something like that. If I'm going personally, again, the schedule is my best friend. I kind of map out what I want to see, what I want to do, what I think like is in the best interest of the site, and make sure I hit those events, like, specific panels that I know people are going to want to see, or Saturday night special. I know everybody always wants to hear about that. And then on the flip side, so for example, for Denver and Charlotte and New Orleans and even Nashville coming up, Nerds has a lot of staff photographers who go to these events. And the way we kind of just coordinate it is, if I have a photographer going, I generally will have them send in like a little blurb, since I'm not there, like, hey, what happened at this con? Like, was there anything special that happened or anything that went on this day? I usually break it down into Friday, And then Saturday, Sunday, I'll group together. So like, did anything happen on these days? What happened at karaoke, or what happened at the concert, or were there any like special announcements or anything like that? And we'll kind of pick those and choose. And then also the photographers are pretty good at either uploading stuff to their Twitter, or we have like a drive where we all share photos and stuff. So they'll either upload it to the drive, and then, you know, I'll pick them and put them into an article like that. So that's kind of how a short rundown of how we prepare a little bit.
Thanks, Briar. Yeah, I love seeing the different photographs that you all put out during convention weekends. I think that you all have some of the best photographers in the business, and we're all very lucky to be able to see some of their photographs. I was going to ask you all in terms of ops. Shelly, Chris isn't here. Oh, first, before I forget, a Chris reminder message. If you take a picture of the chat during this event tonight and post it on his Twitter, he put a post up there. He's going to be sending 5 prints of his own prints to 5 random people that are chosen by one of his sons. And so take a screenshot of the chat and then go to his Twitter and post it under the post that he posted about this. I just said post like 15 times. But do that and you could potentially get some really awesome prints. I did the photo adventure session. I don't even think it's called that, whatever I added adventure to it, but the photo session with Chris last time, and he has the most beautiful prints ever. So really consider doing that and you'll get them for free. But Shelly, I was going to ask you, what are some of the most creative ops you've seen before?
Ooh. So it's different, of course, with the plexiglass. I think that has made people even more creative because you can, there's a lot of really cute ones that are kind of standard that we see happen a lot that make an adorable picture, like making the little half of a heart hand, or there's a lot of like looking at each other through the glass. That's all very cute. But I would say, at least with the plexi, my favorites have been the creative ways that people have posed as if it looks like they're breaking or destroying it. Because of course, right now, no one's too pleased about it being there. So things like a giant, like think of like a carnival or a fair blow up prize, and they have like a giant blow up hammer. Or we can't do like weapons. Of course, you guys know all about, we got to be safe. But something like that shows like how you're breaking the plexi, or there have been a few that make the actors almost look like they're animals in a cage. That's pretty entertaining. And one of my favorites pre-plexi, maybe because of how involved I had to be in it, which happens to me a lot, is that someone wanted Misha and Jensen wrapped like a present, but their wrapping paper was only so big. So I had to hide behind them holding the wrapping paper together. So I enjoy creative things like that with props that are not super, like they're not messy. That wasn't messy. That was quick. You put the paper around, you take the paper out. It's not, like glitter. It's not confetti. It's a parade because I can't clean that up fast enough. But those like quick and creative and easy big props look cool in photo ops, I feel like.
Yeah, I saw somebody with the Funko Pop boxes, like giant Funko Pops, and that looks so cute. And yes, Kendra, you just have to take a screenshot of this your chat, and post it under Chris's post, and that's what we mean by that. I don't know if that was confusing, but yes, thanks for the question. Okay, so we have only about 6 minutes left. So I wanted to just ask you all in general, what your plans are for future conventions, and also if you have any parting words for our audience, just in general about anything, whether it be a tip, whether it be something for them to consider, or anything else in general. I'll go first. So if you want to meet me, because obviously I don't know why anybody would, but if you do, I'll be at New Jersey, DC, and Orlando this upcoming year. I'm really excited to see people and to meet them. Please say hi to me. And I guess my parting tip is that be really kind to the people around you at conventions. It's exhausting. It can be really emotionally draining. And I feel like us kind of having that community together goes a really long way, but it takes us kind of being kind to each other. I know that there are, different people who ship. I'm a big Destiel shipper myself, and people who like have different points of view than you, and conventions have even become politicized in some ways. But I think if we can all just kind of be kind to each other to the best of our ability, that's really, really important. And check out the Random Acts table. It's one of my favorite parts of the whole convention. The Random Acts staff is amazing. And my parting words are that they always have a volunteer opportunity. Usually they're collecting like canned goods or pet supplies or other things of that nature. And so consider donating to Random Acts when you see them in person at the conventions. All right, Scout.
So my future with the conventions is still a little unclear. I'd love to be able to vend possibly next year, if I can. I don't know. I'm still a little in the air, but it's my absolute favorite thing to do. So I'm hoping to be back at conventions next year.
Thanks, Scout. Shelley.
I will be at all Supernatural conventions, hopefully for the foreseeable future. You can find me right before you step into your photo op, or running around like a crazy person trying to get some stuff done. I like to poke fun at Chris and tell him that I am the Robin to his Batman, but I feel like he would prefer to be Robin, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to discuss this. But you'll find me right there. And tips, echoing Pal, yeah, take care of each other. It's a lot. It can be very stressful and taxing. So just look out for each other. And actually, in regards to the Random Acts table at Nashville, they will be collecting hats, scarves, like warm weather gear. So if you have any new, old, anything to donate, that is what will be happening at Nashville.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Elise just said Chris is the Batmobile, and I don't know why, but that sounds very accurate. I feel
I'm
like
actually Batman, thanks.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I'm sorry.
Cal is actually Batman, Chris is the Batmobile, and Shelley is potentially Robin.
Potentially. We'll figure it out.
Well, yes. Briar.
I will be in Orlando, and that's going to be a party. And then, yeah, I guess parting words is just to say again, be kind, but also just try and have fun. That's what you're there for. Live in the moment, enjoy it, and just have fun.
Thanks, Briar. And Strob.
I will be in Nashville next week. And no idea for the rest. My schedule is always a moving target. So normally if I show up, it's a very last minute, like Hail Mary decision to just show up somewhere. So my piece of advice would be just make sure that you are having a good time. Like, don't force yourself to do things that you're not enjoying. You're allowed to, like, just because you can go to all the panels, if you find yourself not feeling one, you can go eat a snack. Like, take care of yourself, but just prioritize having an enjoyable time, because, like, you're spending a lot of money to have fun and really have a great time. So
yeah, so Scout, did you have something else?
My parting tip: stay off the internet. Stay off the internet.
Yes.
Get off the internet. Don't go on the internet when you're at a convention. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Stay off. Stay off. Don't. Okay, that's all.
Good tip.
Fine.
Stay off the internet. Conventions online and conventions in person are very different.
Totally different. Enjoy your experience in the moment.
Yeah, I love the in the moment. All right, you all. So thank you to this beautiful group of humans. Thank you to Nicole behind the scenes and to the Friends of Random Acts group. Make sure that if you haven't donated and you have the means to go to the donation page for Random Acts. Make sure you post under Chris's post on Twitter. I think those are all my parting messages. We love you so much, and we hope that you enjoy all your conventions next week or in the future.